All right, let's just get started here. A small crowd today, but thanks for hopping on to Making Multifamily Money. So today I actually just wanted to underwrite a deal that one of my students sent over to me. And I kind of just wanted to do it to teach her as well as teach everyone else here. So let me share my screen real quick. And if you have a question throughout the process, just put a comment. I'm going to go pretty fast. I underwrote like so many deals at this point that I can go pretty fast here. Um, Second here. So let me share my screen. Right. All right. So can you guys see my screen? Okay. Is that good? Okay. So so this is a deal. Let me admit people. So this was a deal actually brought to one of my students by a wholesaler, and to kind of preface this, unfortunately for me, I've never had a wholesaler or a broker bring me a good deal, to be honest. I mean, I've analyzed hundreds of deals from a broker, from wholesalers, and even if they're off market or if they're on Loopnet, like I've never had a good deal sent to me from them. And I think part of the reason why is when you own real estate versus you invest in, or when you invest in real estate versus when you sell it, it's a different mindset, right? When you're selling real estate, whether you're a broker or a wholesaler, you just care about your commission check. As an investor, you're thinking more long term, more strategic. So, um, just kind of want to preface that. But so this is the document here. So I kind of pre-screened it a little bit, but this was sent by the wholesaler, and they gave some rent rolls, some leases, some utility bills, but overall, this is a 35 unit apartment complex. They only gave me a recent rent roll, so for June of 2022. So it's actually 35 units in two buildings. One building is a 9 unit, and the other building is a 26 unit. Um, so if you can see here, the rent roll, what's nice about it is it tells you what units are vacant. So you can see here, units 2 and 3 are vacant, and unit 123 is vacant. So out of 35 units, 32 are occupied. So let me pull up my calculator here. So 32 divided by 35. The occupancy is 91%. And that's actually pretty good, I'd say. Like most lenders to finance this want, ideally around 90 to 95%. At that point, you'll probably have a good debt service coverage ratio. But anyways, back to the point. So all I care about the rent roll is the total rent, right? Because I don't have a T12. A T12 is the last 12 months of profit and loss statements, but I can still work with this information, right? So what I want to do is add up this rent here. So the 9 unit collects 2125, and then the 26 unit collects 10,255. So monthly, this apartment gets around $12,380. So let's just assume that to figure out the annual expense, just time this by 12, right? So so the gross income is about $148,000, right? So I'm gonna bust it into my. This is an underwriting calculator here. Shameless plug. This is the underwriting calculator that I give in my course. All these students have this. So here, just punching the total number of units for gross rents, that was 148,000. And then what's nice too is it breaks it down by unit per year automatically here. And for me, I don't. I mean, there's options for laundry income, garage income, and rubs, but I just want to keep this real simple and fast. So for expenses, I'm actually kind of lazy. So what I do is I just assume 50%. So as you can see right here, it says the expense ratio should be at least 50%. So, the lazy way is I just take my income times zero point 0.5. So it's 74,000. So once I punch that here, you can see my expense ratio is roughly 50%. So that's how you know it's accurate, right? So That's one piece. And then, sorry, going back to the deal, I forgot to mention it's, I think they want 750,000 for 35 units. So let's take that purchase price, divide by 35. So that's $21,000 per unit. That's pretty good. I mean, $21,000 per unit. So if you want to apply the 1% rule, you just times this by 1%. As long as your rents are $200, you meet the 1% rule in real estate. So for kind of beginners here, the 1% rule basically means that you'll cash flow, right? So, $200 per rent, you'll cash flow. But if you look here, these units average 400 to maybe like 375. So this is almost like the 2% rule. So definitely cash flow is going to be good on this property, right? I can definitely tell that out the gate without doing any math right now. Um, so that's just kind of a quick way to eyeball it. And so here for the pro forma, I'm going to pull it up on section 8 and also on apartments.com to see if I can find anything good. So let me copy this address right here. So I'm just making this real simple to show you it's not that hard. So I'm just literally going to Google search this address. Let's see here. So it looks like the deal's on Loopnet. So once again, like I said, I haven't found a good deal on Loopnet yet. But let's just look at some additional photos here. So this looks like your typical C-class apartment complex. When was this? This was 1950, so I was right. It's 70 years old. It's a garden-style apartment complex. It's a C-class. Um, here you can tell there used to be a pool here, but they filled it up with grass. So this is, it seems like this must be the 26 unit here. The parking, isn't the greatest to be honest, but this is probably more affordable housing, so you probably wouldn't need to pour asphalt and get a new parking lot. I mean, unless you can get significantly higher rents, it might be worth it, right? So let me figure out which county this is in. So Clarksdale, Mississippi. So I'm literally just gonna Google what county is Clarksdale, Mississippi in. So here it's in I can't even pronounce this, Coahoma County. So now that I know that, I'm gonna type in 2022 FMR. So FMR stands for fair market rent. Section 8. So from Google, should be this first one right here. And then what you want to do is 2023 is not out yet, so go to 2022. You click here, and you pick your state. So it's going to be Mississippi, and then you're going to pick the county, which was Coahoma, and then you click next screen. And you see here, this is what's nice about Section 8, right? So let me zoom in here real quick. So a one bedroom gets $600, and a two bedroom gets $700, right? So the apartment was getting, well, what was it getting? About 350 all the way up to 450. But keep in mind that with Section 8, they typically will pay more rent because they want to incentivize you to rent out to Section 8 tenants, right? So as you can see, the rent can be 600 to 700. I don't know, the rent roll didn't specify how many bedrooms each of these units are, but once you know the mix, you can kind of calculate your pro forma, right? So this is just one source that you look at. It's always on the higher end. What I'd recommend my student to do is get a property manager in this area and ask them. And then that's going to be a little bit more realistic. But let me look on apartments.com. So I'm literally going to let's go to apartments.com. I'm going to type in the city, Clarksdale, Mississippi. And issues is that this is a small market, so there's not many options here, right? So literally right here, a two bedroom, one bath is 450. And if you go off this comp right here, and if you look at this unit here, so this bathroom is not the nicest, but it's not that bad either. It looks kind of dirty right now. Um, Let me see back here. Let me get, so right here, the, Let me see. The kitchen actually isn't that bad. I'll be honest. This is what granite countertops, shaker cabinets. They have a backsplash tile. So this is actually pretty decent, I'd say, in terms of this photo here. And they're only getting 450, right? So let's take a look at some photos of this 35 unit. So let's just pull up some photos here. So out the gate, this kitchen looks a little more beat up, right? Like these cabinets, honestly, if you degrease it, sand it, repaint it, and add some nice modern fixtures on it, it'll look pretty clean. But there still needs to be some work, right? So let me just sorry, this looks so small, but let me pull up some photos here. Um, so here, this unit looks like it doesn't even have flooring. The walls look decent, single pane windows, which is fine. But if this whole unit is missing flooring, to put luxury vinyl plank flooring in this unit, it's probably going to cost between $3,000 to $5,000. I'm laying flooring in Oklahoma right now in my apartment, and it's costing me around $4,000 right now. But I don't know what's going to cost in Mississippi. But just want to get a gauge of the units here. So even looking at this kitchen, I mean, this kitchen's a little bit nicer, right? You know, the cabinets were painted a nice gray. This countertop isn't granite, it's laminate, so it's not as nice as the other one. And this kitchen sink is pretty outdated, I'd say. So if I were taking over this unit, honestly, I would probably just install some modern fixtures here. I'd probably actually get a brand new stainless steel sink with a modern faucet and then maybe upgrade this light here to something more modern because this is the light that tenants care about. Like when you renovate the kitchen, that's how you get your most bang for your buck, right? So that's very minor. What I just described to you is very minor. And then just to make it a little more aesthetic here. So, um, so going back to my example here, my calculator. So let's just assume that the rents will be $500 per unit. So 500 times 35 times 12. So your potential pro forma income is $210,000. So typically I assume a 5% vacancy for my pro forma. For the actual, I don't really include vacancy because you're pulling your actual numbers from your T12, right? And that already factors in vacancy. But since this is a smaller market, I may bump this up to maybe 10 or 15% because I know the population is only 15,000. So I probably would bump this up a little bit. Here, let's see if this will calculate for me. Nope. So yeah, I would definitely, let's see here. So let's do some math here. Let's assume it's 10%. So your vacancy is going to be 21,000. And then in terms of the expenses, I actually like to keep the expenses the same from actual to pro forma. And people ask me why do I do that? And my answer is that with apartment complexes, when you raise the rents, your expenses don't really go up. Like whether I'm charging you $500 in rent or $300 in rent, I have a lot of fixed costs. I mean, sir, my property management will go up because it's usually 7%, right? So that might go up a bit, but for the most part, it's pretty equivalent. I mean, you can just bump it up a bit to factor in the higher property management. So let's just make it like 80,000 for this example here. And so here I basically have my income for both current and pro forma. I have my expenses, and this is my NOI, right? So this is how you evaluate the apartment complex. So here, let's go over to this next tab. I have a mortgage calculator. So that's principal and interest as well as interest only. And let me populate here. So let's do some math now. Okay. So let's just say my purchase price was 750,000. I'm going to do 75% LTV. So that's 500. I already kind of put it here. So for principal and interest, let me admit somebody. So for principal and interest, I'm going to assume 7%. Unfortunately, rates right now are 7%. You can get 30 years fixed. So your monthly payment is 3,700. But my student also told me that she wants to do a hard money loan. So I'm going to do it down here. on this property. So she told me 12%, right? So your monthly payment is going to be 5,600. So you see how much higher it is, right? Like this one's 3,700, and if a hard money loan, it's 5,600, and this one's interest only. So let's go over to my final analysis tab. So I have the current with principal and interest, pro forma, principal and interest, current interest only, pro forma interest only. So let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. So you put in the offer price 750, 25% down payment. So you need about $187,000. The net operating income already pre-populates from the first tab, and the debt service will pre-populate from the prior tab. And you see here is your net cash flow is actually $2,400 a month. Your debt service coverage ratio is 1.6. So that's very good. That's very good. Like lenders want 1.25. So the fact that you're at 1.6, that's very good, right? Like you could probably ask for seller carry second to reduce your down payment and still be above that 1.25%. But you have to ask your lender if you want to do that, right? So traditional lenders may not want that, but the hard money lender, they may let you, right? And you can see here the cash on cash return is 15%. That's day one. Day one, 15% cash on cash return, right? Like I aim for about 8%. Some people are okay between 6 to 10%. And then you have this cap rate here of 9.8%. So it's a pretty good deal, right? And I already kind of knew that, the offer price was 750,000. And, with 35 units, that's pretty cheap. So this one cash out 50%. But if you did a hard money loan in this deal down here, you can see your net cash flow is only $500. So essentially you break even. Your cash on cash returns 3%, but that's not bad, right? Like you can get a hard money loan, break even as you renovate these units, because a lot of these units need some renovation, right? Between kitchens and all of that. So that's what's nice about this calculator. And then for the pro forma side, you can see here, like based on your pro forma, if you raise the rents to $500, let me see this transposed correctly. So now your cash on cash return is 57%. Your cap rate's 20%. Assuming an 8 cap market, the value is at $1.8 million, $1.9 million. Like, this is the power of apartment complexes. You could buy a deal for $750,000 and you effectively doubled this, right? So, like, that's how you do a cash out refi, right? So let's just say that I'm doing a 75% loan to value. So let's just say my new value is 1.9 million. I times that by 0.75. So my new loan is $1.4 million, right? So let's minus my old loan. So my old loan is 562,000. So literally, you could pull out $860,000 tax free. Like, I mean, there's some renovation expense, obviously. So let's just say she had to put in $200,000 in renovation expense. So you literally pulled out $660,000. You got all your renovation money back, and remember, you downed about $200,000. So let's minus the down payment too. So you literally made $460,000 on this deal doing a burr on steroids. So that's why I love multifamily. Like you cannot do this in single family, right? So like that's the potential. So I kind of create this calculator to do it real quick here. So that's just kind of more of the underwriting side. But let's do analysis of the market, right? So I want to know more about Clarksdale, Mississippi. So let's just Google it. So Clarksdale, Mississippi. Oopsies, wrong one. Clarksdale, Mississippi population. Let's look at this population here. So out the gate, small town, right? It's 15,000 people. And if you look at this graph here, what are you noticing? It's a downward trend, right? So it's a declining population. Like that's not a good sign to me. Like I want to buy in cities where the population is going up, not down, right? So in 2011, 18,000. In 2020, it's 15,000, right? So that's not good in my eyes. And let's do a deeper dive. So I love using city-data.com to find market data. So let's do Clarksdale, Mississippi. So what I love about this is it gives you a nice overview. Um, so as you can see, the income is about $30,000. So it's kind of a lower income area. So, maybe Section 8 might be a viable option, especially if they pay you more in rent. Remember, Section 8 can pay maybe 600 bucks, right, in rent here, but there needs to be demand. So what I use City Dash data for is you can look at the demographics. So it's predominantly African American, 82%. Um, I guess my people are a minority here. But what I like looking at is a crime rate. So what I love about this is it tells you the crime trend from 2007 all the way to 2011. I wish it went all the way to 2022, but it doesn't. But I look at the crime index at the bottom, and then what you want to see is 500 or less. So here you can see it was 500, but it's trending up to 600. So to me, that's not really a good indicator in my eyes. And what's nice about city-data.com too is you can see what the job variety is. So is this market, is Clarksdale dependent on one job? So you can see here it has a breakdown, right? Education is 12%, healthcare is 12%, public is 6%. So, it's not too much here, but we can find more about it on Wikipedia. So let's Google Clarksdale. Um, right here, Wikipedia. Let's see if I can find any jobs. Nope. Okay, so what I like to do is I just Google what is the job growth in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Okay. So right here, off the first place, they seen the job market decrease by 1% over the year. Future job growth over the next 10 years is predicted to be 12%, which is lower than the US average of 33%. So let's see here. The unemployment rate is 6.8% compared to 6%. And let's see. See, I'm not finding good data here. So another place I like to go to is apartmentofnumbers.com, and it shows you the job growth. So let me see if I can find Clarksdale. Now, see, it's such a small city that Department of Numbers is not showing. But what's nice about this one is like if you want to know where to invest, like this is where you go. So look at this right here. Dallas, Texas had 270,000 jobs. It grew by 7%, right? San Francisco. Let me see where I invest. I invest in Oklahoma City. So Oklahoma City had 26,000 new jobs and it grew by 4%, right? So you should be wanting to see increase in job growth. So for me, that's a little bit between the declining population as well as the job prospects. I think the let me stop sharing my screen here. So between the declining population as well as the decrease in job growth, like those would be two red flags for me in terms of this deal. I mean, this is a great deal in terms of numbers, in terms of upside potential. But like I said, that's just me doing a quick analysis. I would probably need to talk to a property manager to get a sense of what the market vacancy rate is. I guarantee you, even the apartment complex is 91% occupied. I guarantee you, probably maybe 75 to 80% are actually paying out of that 90. It seems to be like a lower income market. And for me, the crime index was a little bit too high than what I would like. So between the crime, the declining population, and the lack of jobs, like those three factors make this a deal breaker for me. But I still want, obviously my student to check with the property manager that she's working with to verify if this is true or not. But for me, like just on those based on those three criteria, even though this thing cash flows 15% day one, I don't care, right? I want to move on and find a deal somewhere else in a different market. So overall, I went pretty fast there. I just want to open up to some questions now. Any questions?
if any?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, what I teach in my course is that we have to interview at least 20 property managers for our market, and we want to have at least our top three property managers. We rank them from one, two, and three. And the hard part is, and why we interview a lot of property managers is it helps you learn about the market, right? Because when you start to hear 20 people say the same thing, then you can kind of track the trends, right? So that's how you trust but verify. I'm very big on trust but verify. And for property managers, who you want to work with are called medium sized property managers. So they must manage between 400 to 1,000 units. And the reason for that is if they're too small, like a mom and pop, they don't have systems in place, right? Like they won't have like a maintenance person, they won't have like Buildium, Appfolio, Rent Manager, and they don't know how to scale, right? But if it's like over 1,000, they're not going to take you seriously, right? Like if they're managing 5,000 units and you only own a 35 unit, they're not going to take you seriously at all because you're a small peas, small fish, relatively speaking, right? So that's why you need to vet the medium sized property manager. And for me, this apartment needs some renovation, right? So ideally, my property manager should be my general contractor as well. So you want to ask them for like previous work that they've done, how they renovate this unit, and what rents can we get for this. So for me, it's unfortunately it takes about 3 to 6 months to tell if a property manager is good or bad. So when we negotiate the contract for property management, the default's 12 months, but I always tell any investor that negotiate down to 3 to 6 months. A lot of times they won't go down to 3 months, but you can at least get them down to 6 months. And you want that to protect yourself because if they're terrible, like if you have a good deal and a bad property manager, you'll have a bad deal. I mean, sorry, a good deal, a bad property manager, you'll have a bad deal because they'll manage it so poorly that's gonna become a bad deal. So that's why like property management is so key. Like if I have a bad deal but a good property manager, it becomes a good deal. So so yeah, I mean, despite my robust interview process, it's a crapshoot at the end of the day. I go based off referrals. So like my property manager, I another investor gave me their property manager, and I was able to ask him like, what do you like about working with this property manager? What do you not like working with this property manager? So you get the both sides, right? Like both sides of the story. Because when you interview the property manager, or anybody, people are on their best behavior, right? So like, of course, they're gonna say the right things and do the right things, but actions speak louder than words. So, um, but that's unfortunately how you find out, like when they start taking over the property. So, hope that answers that question there, Mason.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Any other questions? No, no. Okay, quiet crowd. So basically, overall for this deal, just looking at the occupancy of 90% and the income, this could qualify for traditional financing. And what my student told me about the deal was that they owned it for 20 years. So like out the gate, I immediately told her that like it's probably owned free and clear. So you should pitch a seller financing because at that point, if they want to close fast, and you can pitch seller financing because it's your price, my terms, right? So like you can negotiate a lower down payment, you can negotiate your monthly payment, and you can close faster, right? So you still need to do your inspection, and but unfortunately, this owner wants to sell the apartment, take the money, and then transfer it to their business. So in that case, like they don't want to sell or finance the deal, right? Because they want the money for themselves, for the business. So what I told her to do was do seller carry second. And what seller carry second does, it allows you to reduce your down payment, right? So my down payment was 25%. If the owner is willing to carry 10%, it reduces my down payment to 15%, and they still get 90% of their money to invest into their business venture. But in order for you to get that, the lender must approve it, right? So, and in order to approve it, you have to have a good debt service coverage ratio of 1.25 or above. So remember, going back to the debt service coverage ratio, it was 1.6. So even if, let's just say you paid, um, usually I start with maybe 5% interest only on the money that you borrow. Like even despite that interest only payment, I think that the debt service coverage ratio will still be greater than 1.25. So what you do is you tell your lender, hey, the seller wants to carry 10% second. I'm paying him 5% interest only. And despite that, the debt service coverage ratio is still greater than 1.25. Is it okay if the seller carries a note in the second lien position? remember the lender's always in the first lien position, which is the most secure, right? So that's how you get to pitch it if you're gonna pitch it and help reduce your down payment. And that's how my student can get 15% down. And imagine, let's just say she does a full property inspection, she finds out that like it needs a new roof, for example. You can ask for seller repair credit. So I just replaced the roof in my 26 units. I know it's about $30,000. She has a 35 unit, so let's just make it maybe $40,000 to get a brand new roof. And maybe you can ask for $40,000 of seller repair credit again. So now you got the seller carry you 10%, you're down to 15%. And then at that point, you got $40,000 in seller repair credit. And let's just say now your down payment's maybe 12%. So you basically just bought an apartment complex with 12% down, right? So that's another strategy. But unfortunately, I think the seller denied seller carry second. Um, Either A, it wasn't, because she was communicating with a wholesaler. So sometimes when you tell the wholesaler, they don't communicate it well to the owner because it's like playing telephone, right? Like if I tell you something and then you tell someone else something, you tell someone else something. By the time it gets to the fifth person, the message is misconstrued. So that's why I hate working with brokers. I hate working with wholesalers. Just because like I want to talk directly with the owner to understand their pain points and build trust. But you cannot do that when you have a middleman, right? And then the wholesalers, like they don't care, right? They just want to make their 3% wholesale fee or whatever the wholesale fee is, right? That's all they care about. And then like the wholesaler didn't even know about creative financing. So you're kind of pushing them to do that. And then in terms of the hard money loan, so obviously the owner actually referred my student over to a hard money lender, but I told her like you should get like at least 2 or 3 quotes other from other hard money lenders. So I actually connected her with my hard money lender to get another quote so that she can at least see like what's reasonable, right? Like get a gauge, and maybe my hard money lender might let her seller carry second 10% or whatever. So, I always recommend like I have 20 lenders that I work with at least, and I'm growing it daily. So, like, you always got to pitch it through multiple lenders to get you the best quote, right? So, sometimes the seller might give or the wholesaler might give you a lender they work with, but like you want to have your own people looking at the deals too. So, trust but verify. So, I have some comments here. So, Jenny, the calculator. So, right now it's for my students. Let me think about it. I may share it to everybody. I guess if you're interested in the calculator, just send me an email, and I'll definitely consider sharing that calculator. I just kind of made it myself as I analyze a lot of deals. It's pretty simple. So Randy, what recourse do you have if rent rolls and tenancy are not what's represented after a sale? So unfortunately, in commercial real estate, we're deemed as sophisticated investors, so we have no protections in place. So in residential real estate, like if they were to lie to you about something, you can go back and sue them, right? But in commercial real estate, we don't have that same protections. So like honestly, like people can fabricate T12s, right? Like you can make up a T12, you can make up a rent roll, you can even make up a bank statement. Like I have like 10 bank accounts at this point. I can just send money from one of my bank accounts to my other and just say, hey, I got $500 in rent, right? So like it's really hard. I mean, you can do all the due diligence, but you really don't know until you take over the property. For me, fortunately, like what the owners have told me, I've it's been accurate for the most part. So what I kind of vouch is like if you have a gut feeling that the wholesaler, broker, or the seller is bad, like if they're a bad person, of course, like you can't do deals with bad people. Like you can have the most amazing deal ever that makes me 20% cash on cash return day one, but if I sense that they're a bad person, I'm gonna walk away from that deal because like it's not worth it because they're probably hiding things, right? If you have that feeling, then you just move forward. So it's a tough situation. So that's why I always advocate like expect the unexpected. Like every apartment that I purchased, like they always tell you, oh, everyone pays rent, and I take over, and like the moment I take over, I had like I think 4 people stop paying rent because they knew that I was going to come in, raise the rents, and they were going to leave anyway. So they milked it for a month, knew that, and then once I gave them the eviction notice, they left. Right. So um, and then also like in terms of expenses, right? Like when I took over my 20 unit, I had to fumigate all 20 units for bed bugs, which cost me $10,000. So like there's always unexpected expenses. So to me, that's why it's nice, especially getting your first deal. Like run it by someone more experienced, right? Like Um, for me, I just talked to so many sellers and like analyzed so many deals and done just analyze so many deals in that my markets that like I just know like how the deal should look like, how the process should go, and like how the owner should be. Because like when the owner is good, like all the deals I closed on, it just flowed very naturally, and like they just gave me information. They're very transparent. Like in my course, I talk about like good sellers versus bad sellers. So I think I hold like a whole lecture on that, um, and like what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, and then so Yelp and Google rating for my apartment complex. So, you can go on apartments.com for Google, Yelp for apartment reviews. And a lot of times, most people that post, to be honest, they're angry. So, like, usually if it's an angry tenant, they're going to post and give you like a 1-star review. So I definitely take it with a grain of salt. For me, I focus more on like the location of the property. Is it low crime? Is it a good pop? Is it growing population? Is there a good job opportunity? Right? And is there like wait lists for rents? But another question that kind of Ivan asked me was like, well, if I take over my new apartment, like, do I rebrand? Right? Like right now, I have a Stonebridge apartment complex in Oklahoma, and when I took over, I kept the name, and I didn't have the reviews on Google were like 3 stars. It was pretty average. But like some people, they're mixed about it. Like they want to change it, but like if it's a small town, like for example, like my Stonebridge one, I asked my property manager like, hey, should we rebrand and change the name? And they just said, that it has a good reputation for the most part. It's a good area. Like let's just keep it the same, right? But then like my mobile home park, it's in a smaller city, small town as well, like 15,000 people. And like, even if I change the name from Hidden Acres Mobile Home Park to like what whatever Hidden Hills Mobile Home Park, like even with the new name, people will know it as Hidden Acres because they lived there their whole lives. That's all they know it as. So like at that point, there's no point in rebranding. But I know a lot of like syndicators and fix and flippers, like if they do a massive renovation, they may change the name completely to rebrand. Like I said, in the small towns, it doesn't really matter because they already know it as that name already. So um, and then a new business entity for a property be a good move. So yeah, it's a good question. So I work with a lawyer for my asset protection plan. So mine is a little bit more advanced because I own $12 million worth of real estate. But basically, I have a holding company based in Wyoming, and that Wyoming company will hold all my other LLCs, which holds my properties. So, like for example, my 26 unit is in an LLC in Oklahoma. My mobile home park is in an LLC in Alabama, and I have a bunch of single family homes which are in LLCs. But what's annoying about California is that for every LLC that you own, you have to pay the franchise tax for $800 a year, even if the property is not in California. So even though my LLC is in Oklahoma and my property is in Oklahoma, I still have to pay the California Franchise Tax Board $800. So like if I own 10 LLCs, that's like $8,000 a year in terms of rent or in terms of tax. So it does add up. I kind of went a little bit too extreme in terms of my LLCs. So overall, just consult an attorney. Or a good one is Prime Corporate Services. LLCs cost around $800, but you definitely need an asset protection plan. Like you don't want it in your name. You want the asset in another person's name. So basically, the whole puzzle is I have a trust which owns my holding company. Then my holding company owns all my LLCs that owns my real estate. So that's kind of my asset protection plan. And then I have good insurance, and then I have an umbrella insurance policy over everything. So basically, I have like every insurance policy known to man, and I call that playing defense, right? Like I don't want to lose all I built due to a lawsuit. So um, yeah, that's a great question there. Any other questions? Yeah, great question, Randy. So the renovations. So the way I view renovations is that like you're trying to attract a higher tenant base. So like when you repaint the outside, you improve the landscaping, you paint parking. Um, Hopefully, your the apartment that you're buying, like doing that justifies an increase in rent, right? Like for example, my 26 unit. I mean, I know I can get around $200 So my average rent's 500 right now, but after I'm done with renovations, I can get around 700. And it's kind of challenging. I mean, in terms of C class apartment complexes, which is where we all start off at, like playgrounds, a gym, a pool doesn't really get you that much more rent. But let's say you have a B class apartment complex, which is considered 15, 20 years old. So A class is when it's 15 years old or less. So let's say you want to upgrade your B class to an A class apartment. In that case, it might be worth it to, add a gym, add a pool, maybe a dog park, and all that. So it's just really based on like maybe if you have a neighboring apartment that has these certain amenities and this certain style, and you want to match your rent with that. At that point, it might be worth it to invest in landscaping, and that's how you can kind of gauge your ROI. So for me, I only do C class right now, so I haven't really had to deal much of that. But C class is more like value add, like you can double, triple the value of the apartment complex. But once you start getting to B and A class, it's more like for tax purposes, like you get depreciation, cost segregation, and bonus depreciation, and it's just more steady, right? You have a higher end tenant base. Like me, I rent right now in California. You know, I rent in A class apartment complexes. Um, so great question. Hoping that answers that question there, Randy. Any other questions? Okay, if none, then another question a student asked me was, what's my asset allocation between real estate and equities? So, and that was a good question. So I'm about 80% of my net worth is in real estate right now, but I imagine that's going to go up as I execute my value add plan, and I have about 20% of my net worth in like stocks, whole life insurance, and then just cash as well as like hard assets like your car or like watches or whatnot. So I'm about an 80-20 split right now. But for me, what I recommend is if you're not a millionaire yet, then just focus on one thing. Like usually real estate will get you there fast. And then once you become a millionaire through real estate, you can then maybe diversify outside. But you can still invest like a little bit, like 500 bucks a month into like a Roth IRA, which is tax deferred. Um, so yeah, I just want to kind of answer that question there. Um, so that's all I had. Any last minute questions, or I can give you guys back 15 minutes of your time. I guess last call for questions.
Could you talk a little bit about your course and kind of how that differs from like this session?
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, great question, Anthony. So overall, my style of my course is very similar to this session. To be honest, I give out quite a bit for free on these sessions. But basically, the difference is my course. It's just more like A through Z. Like it just goes in sequential order. It deep dives a lot deeper than what I'm doing here. So actually, so the emphasis of my course is I'm going to show you A through Z how to get your first off-market apartment complex, hopefully with creative financing, um, within 12 months using a direct mailing campaign. So basically, I'll help you set up your direct mailing campaign. I'll help you negotiate with the sellers and then bring the property from A through Z. So like that's why I underwrite my deals for my students first on the call, and then later I'll answer general questions. So I just want to teach my student, my mentor, my mentee, and then I also want to teach everyone else as well, right? So it's about 16 modules. It's 120 videos right now. Obviously, a lot of my students are asking me questions. So as they ask me questions, I'm actually recording more videos and modules. Probably gonna do one on asset protection, which I talked about today, as well as what to do after you take over a property in terms of like rebranding. So like once I get asked questions, it kind of helps me modify the course. But I would say the course is catered towards um, yeah, that's a good point, Ivan. Yeah, so basically these are like cliff notes, and then the course is the whole book, right? And then, but I will say my course is more catered towards action takers. Like if it's the whole point of it is to get you to take action, and if you take consistent action, I know you will close on your first apartment complex in 12 months because I did it when I followed the system. I got two apartment complexes, a 20 unit, a 26 unit in 6 months, sending letters out for 6 months. And I made my first 26 unit was 5,000. I bought it for half a million. No, 520,000. I got $70,000 in seller repair credit. So I only down 10%, and it appraised at $750,000 day one. And I literally got offered last month $1.3 million for my 26 unit apartment complex from a 1031 exchange investor. And I literally did no renovations yet. But I literally turned down the deal because I want to renovate it, and I know it's going to be worth $1.5 million. And I want to do a cash out refi, right? Um, so yeah, that was my vision for the course, A through Z. Set up your direct mailing campaign, pick your market, analyze a deal, negotiate with the owners. You can obviously I have a lot of lenders that I can refer that I work with, and then close on the deal, and then how to manage your property manager. And my focus is by going off market, you can get creative financing. And I teach heavily how to do creative financing. If you didn't check out my last session, I did a recording on a video on creative financing, which I talk about seller carry first, seller carry second, master lease agreement. So those are the three strategies there. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like if you send out your mailers, if you follow the system, I know you'll close on your first apartment in 12 months and probably make instant equity day one, like what I did. So it's just basically a system that um, basically I use myself, right, to basically close on my deals. So, but I'd be happy if you email me directly, Anthony. I'd be happy to send you the actual course so you can see the full curriculum, and you can see what it entails. And then basically during these weekly sessions, I'll prioritize my students first, and then eventually I'm going to have private sessions with my students with Q&A style. So I hope that answers your question, Anthony. Any other questions that you had about the course?
Maybe just in general, like, do you have any opinions on like high interest rates right now affecting uh, ability to purchase stuff
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, great question. So, like right now, interest rates are 7%. I mean, to be honest, like because interest rates are so high, this is the time to learn creative financing. Because like I seller financed my mobile home park 5% interest only, and I only down 10%, right? Because like when you seller finance, you pick your terms, and you can't even get a 5% interest only loan right now. So for me, like in a times like this, people are afraid. But if you know creative financing, this is when you strike. You double down and strike. Like that's why I'm so frustrated. Like, um, um, because like all my money's tied up right now in my three properties that I bought in the past year, so I can't buy deals. But then I can still send out letters and I can negotiate 0 to 5% down. If you do creative finance, you can negotiate your down payment. So what I advocate is, let's just say you want me to down 20% by seller financing. I'll say I'll give you 20%, but I'll give you 5% year one, or 5% at the close of escrow, 5% year one, next 5% year two, year three, and so on, right? So like everything's negotiable in terms of seller financing. But in terms of like interest rates, I mean, to be honest, like if you buy a deal right, interest rate shouldn't matter. Like if I gave you a deal that made you $200,000 in equity day one, would you care about a 7% interest rate? I don't think you would. I wouldn't care about it. And then since I'm doing value add anyways, I'm gonna do a cash out refi in like 2 3 years. Maybe the interest rate went down, right? So your rate's not fixed anyways, and you should be doing cash out refis um, pretty frequently in terms of when you buy an apartment, you raise the value, you do cash out refi, and you keep on raising the rent. Another 3 years, you do another cash out refi. So to me, like, never, don't sit on the sideline, right? Like, you have people like me who know creative financing. We're gonna come and sweep all these deals up, right? So learn the game, learn how to negotiate seller financing, and go learn to get off market deals so that you can get a deal bought right. And at that point, interest rates don't matter. So, um, so that's why I love going off market. Like I've never, sorry if there's any brokers on this call, but I've never had a broker bring me a good deal. And like to be honest, I'm teaching brokers how to like analyze deals. Like it's sad. Like I work with brokers who've been doing this for. They tell me, "Oh, I've been a broker for 20 years. I've been doing real estate for like 5 years, and I'm teaching them." And this is not even my full time job, right? I'm a pharmacy director. It's my full time job. Like, how am I teaching somebody who did real estate their whole life when I've been doing it for 5 years? And the reason is because they don't own real estate themselves, right? So it's a different mindset, and you have to think long term. Like if I bought an apart, let's say 30 years down the road when I own my apartment complex, like, am I going to care that my interest rate was 7%? I probably would have cashed out refi or did a refinance like 3, 4 times at least, right? So to me, I say don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait, right? So if you just wait and hold on long enough, like, you'll never go wrong with real estate. Real estate created the most millionaires in the world, and I'm doing it while working full time, right? So like it's definitely doable. Um, yeah, great question there, Anthony. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that did. Thanks a lot.
I have time for maybe one more question. Um, any burning questions that anyone has?
I can ask another question if no one
Yeah,
else
yeah,
has.
yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm pretty new to investing. I wonder, do you have any thoughts about someone just diving into multifamily without single family experience?
Oh yeah, like,
Uh,
dude, like a lot of my students, they own like maybe like 10 single family homes, and they're still going through my course as if they're brand new. So like, to me, the only nice thing about single family is like you don't have to go off market. Like, I started off a single family. I bought a house 10% down. I house hacked it. I rented out rooms. Right. That's how I got started. When I was living in the Bay Area, and but to be honest, like, it's a different game altogether. Like, I a lot of residential real estate agents always say, "Oh, I don't need your help. Like, I know real estate, but like residential is nothing like multifamily." So for me, like, you can definitely dive in headfirst into multifamily. I would if I were to start over, but like, it's hard because like I start off in single families too. Like, my goal is to buy one single family home a year for 10 years. But in California, a single family home's like $1 million each, and I'm buying an apartment complex for 500,000, and it makes $10,000 gross. Versus my single family home in California rents out for like 5,000 at most, right? So like, and I can't even really raise the rents that much. So like, to me, like, if you want to dive in first to multifamily, number one, get educated. Whether that's my course, whether it's Bigger Pockets. But like, to be honest, like, I kind of, because I consume so much YouTube podcasts, and I've joined a bunch of like courses myself. Like, I felt like for my course, I kind of combined all that into my course because like I felt like I was just missing a lot of stuff that like I wish that was answered. And then number two is like sense of community, right? So like, I want to create a community of people. Like, I joined mentorships that I paid like $15,000 to join, and like I don't even meet any of their students, right? So like, for me, I want to create a community and like have my students engage and like do partners, and I tell my students, like, I hope to train one of you so that one day I just can be a limited partner. Just here, take my money, invest it for me, and I trust and know you because you went through my course, right? So like, that's my ultimate goal, is I just want to train somebody to like find deals for me so I can just invest with them. So yes, you can go into multifamily, but you definitely shouldn't go by yourself, right? Because like a lot of my students, they do a lot of single family homes, and they're still, they're humble enough to ask for help. Even me, like, I own 200 lot mobile home park, um, and like two apartment complexes, but like I'm still humble enough to ask for help, right? Like, I'm not any smarter than where you are. I might maybe one or two steps ahead of you. But since I've been through A through Z, I can help expedite your journey, right? Like, you can learn from my mistakes, you can learn from my 10,000 hours and expedite your journey. I wish I kind of had that in a little better of a system. So yes, the answer is you should. And then like a lot of people say that, oh, I don't have money, I should wholesale or syndicate. But then like, honestly, if even through my course, like, if you understand how to analyze deals and get good off market deals, you can wholesale that deal. Like my 26 unit, I could have easily wholesaled that and make $100,000 assignment fee day one, doing absolutely nothing, right? Because I got the deal, I negotiated it. I could have easily made $100,000. If I wanted to sell it, I could have sold it as a broker. If I wanted to syndicate that deal, I mean, believe me, I could. It'd be so easy for me to raise $100,000 with that deal, right? So for me, I advocate get a deal under your belt first, so that you have your system in place, and if you want to syndicate down the road, then syndicate. I just don't like it when people syndicate out the gate and think that, oh, like, I just can raise $1 million and lose other people's money, right? It's not my money, I can lose it. I just don't want people to have that mindset. So for me, I'm like, put your money where your mouth is first, and then ask others for money, or ask investors later down the road, right? So like, for me, after I'd done full cycle on my two apartment complexes, I mean, how easy would it be for me to raise money to buy like a 100 unit apartment complex in Oklahoma City, right? I have my systems already in place. Like, I can easily scale to 1,000 units if I wanted to. So, and I already have a proven system, right? I have a property manager, I have a general contractor, I know the rents, I know the area, I know the market. So like it's a no brainer, if I want to do it later. But to me, you have to at least done a couple full cycles yourself before syndicating. Yeah. And then even if you, let's say you take my course and you realize you don't want to do it yourself and you still want to invest with a syndicator, the course will teach you how to vet the syndicator at the bare minimum, right? So, and then once you kind of mastered multifamily, single family is a cakewalk, right? So like, let's say you do multifamily, you realize you don't like it, you can still do single family homes there. So great. I hope that answers your question. So running out of time here. So I am contemplating adding a Saturday session. Trying to get some feedback. Want to do a Saturday session at 10 a.m. Pacific to accommodate the East Coast people. I realize I'm more West Coast friendly. So if interested, just shoot me an email if you would like a Saturday session. And thank you for hopping on. And if, like I said, if you have any questions about the course or one-on-one coaching or whatever, just shoot me an email. You should have my email that I sent out. And hope to see you next week. And if you want to rewatch this is uploaded onto YouTube. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.